Let's get started with our Chinese lantern design. I've already picked out a color scheme from Gravit that comprises of reds and yellows. Now I'm going to start creating the lantern body using a series of ovals. So first bring out a circle from your shapes tool, stretch it wide so it becomes an elongated oval, pop it into the middle of your design, and use the eyedropper, change the fill color to one of the reds in your color scheme. So I'm going to choose this middle red here. Once done, copy and paste, Ctrl C, Ctrl V, pull out. And what you're going to do for this second oval is to remove the fill. So I'm going to click the dustbin here, remove the fill, but I'm going to add a border. So I'm going to use the eyedropper and I'm going to pick out another color from my color scheme. This time around, I'm going to use a much darker red, which is the one over here. Once done, I'm going to make the oval a bit shorter, so squish it in from the sides and pop it on top of my previous oval. You can always resize it again and then reposition it nicely. Okay, if you don't like the thickness of the border, you can always change the thickness over here. So I'm going to make it slightly thicker by clicking and dragging upwards to increase the border thickness to maybe about 5. If not, I'm going to just type the number and press enter because that works as well. Okay, now I'm going to copy this inner circle, which is just a border. So Ctrl C, Ctrl V to paste, pull out. And once again, I'm going to squish this over in a bit to make it a bit thinner than the previous. Okay, then again put it on top of the previous shapes until you have something like this. Repeat again for another circle. Ctrl C, Ctrl V. Squish. If you're familiar with your shapes, you can just do it directly on top. Okay, and then reposition in the middle. Okay, so you can do as many times as you like for however thickness of the lantern that you want. Now I'm going to stop here just to show you what's next. I'm going to create the top part of the lantern. So this comprises of a rectangle, which is made from a square. So bring out a square shape. I'm going to match my fill color of this to the same dark red that I've chosen. So I'm going to use the dark red of my color scheme. Once done, squish the square into a rectangle and pop it slightly over the top of your set of ovals. Okay, and stretch it out such that it covers the top nicely like this. Okay, if you want, you can also choose to round the corners to give a slightly rounded finish. Okay, but that's entirely up to you. I prefer rounded looks, so I'm going to round my corner a bit. Okay, now the fun part is here. We're going to copy and paste this to the bottom. So Ctrl C, Ctrl V, drag it out. Move the second copy of the rectangle to the bottom. So this sort of creates a lantern shape already. What's left is to create the little hanging tassels and the hook. So I'm going to start with the top first. So to do the hook on top, bring out a triangle. We're going to remove the inside fill, so delete the fill. But we're going to add a border. So use the eyedropper under the border tool and click on a color from your color scheme. I'm going to use the same deep red. So for my entire lantern, I'm just going to use 2 shades of red. Once done, you can shrink it a bit smaller and pop it right on top your lantern. Okay, so this will create the little hanging hook on top of the lantern. Now let's work on the tassel. To do this, I'm going to do something really interesting. I'm going to make a set of 4 circles joined together. Okay, so what I'm going to do is first add a circle to my design. Shrink it a bit smaller so I have enough space. I'm going to remove the fill color and add a border which is the same color of my deep red. Now I'm going to copy and paste this to create 3 other circles and slightly overlap them a bit. So Ctrl C, Ctrl V. For the second circle, overlap a bit like that. Ctrl C, Ctrl V. For the third circle, overlap it a bit to the right side, like that. And then for the final circle, Ctrl C, Ctrl V, overlap it a bit on the left side. So it should create a pattern like this. It's really up to you how you wish to arrange it. Okay, this is to create an interesting loop tassel design. Once done, I'm going to select over all my shapes. I'm going to increase the thickness of the border a bit. So I'm going to do about 5 to match that of my lines here. Enter. Okay, and then I'm just going to group this together. So Ctrl G and string them slightly smaller so they create a simple small tassel design. Pop it towards the bottom of your lantern but slightly below it. Okay, and then to finish off, I'm going to add a tassel that comprises of a shield shape, which is this shield. Okay, that looks a bit like a tongue. Flip it vertically upside down, make it smaller, and change the fill color to a color of your choice. For me, I'm just going to use the same deep red. Okay, then what I'm going to do is bring it below my tassel shape, stretch it a bit longer. So this is the end tassel of my lantern. Now what I'm going to do next is just to add some thin rectangles to connect these two parts together. So bring out a square first, shrink it to create a rectangle, change the fill color using the eyedropper and your color scheme. And what I'm going to do is to just join the base of the lantern with the tassel design that I've done. If you find that the rectangle is too thick, you can always feel free to shrink it a bit more. Okay, and use your arrow keys to help you fit nicely. Okay, you can always zoom in if this is getting tricky. So zooming in will allow you to have a better view of the thickness. Okay, once done, I'm going to copy paste this, Ctrl C, Ctrl V, pull out, and join the bottom part of the tassel. Finally, I'm going to go back to fit all of my screen so I can see my entire design. So this is your completed lantern shape. Once you're done, select everything and do a group. So that's how you create a Chinese lantern.